Welcome everyone to the event. We're going to give it just another minute or two for people to get in, and we will be starting any moment. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Welcome everyone. So excited. I would say so excited to see you, but because of our virtual world and Zoom, I unfortunately do not get to see all of you. You get to see me, which is, I guess, unfair. But it's great to have everyone here to kick off the 28th annual research symposium here at UCI. I know it's been an incredibly challenging year for all of us. And so it really is great to be able to celebrate our students' achievements this year, the research they've been able to engage in and do. And I know, like me, you're all looking forward to the students' presentations throughout the day. But it's a special pleasure today to be able to kick off our event with two keynote speakers from the community, people I've worked with for a while now. I'm going to introduce both of them briefly and then turn it over to them to make some opening remarks. Speaking first will be Mark Percy. Since June 2019, Mark has served as president of the CEO Leadership Alliance of Orange County with a mission to grow Orange County into a top-tier innovation hub in America. Embedded in CEOLA OC strategy is its mission of helping to build a thriving OC for all. For the prior decade, Mark served as a philanthropic advisor to individuals and families, making significant investments to positively impact education, healthcare, and other areas of common purpose. During this period, he has assumed many roles to benefit his long-term clients, including executive director of the K Family Foundation, board member of the Marvin Buzz Oates Charitable Foundation, chair of the Workforce Development Committee of the OC STEM Initiative, based at UC Irvine, and executive director of the OC Excellent Public Schools Initiative based at Chapman University. From 1986 to 2008, he held executive positions primarily in privately held firms, including SVP and then president of a consulting firm in Washington, D.C. that strategically empowered U.S. companies such as AT&T, Motorola, Westinghouse, and United Technologies to expand business in emergent market economies. For 4 years, he led the government business development initiatives of a Fortune 500 corporation. Past volunteer activities include co-founder of the Orange County Chapter of Advisors in Philanthropy, the first regional AIP chapter in the nation, and president of OC AIP from 2014 to 2015. He currently serves as board chair of Dreams for Schools, which promotes education equity by bridging gaps in STEM, specifically computer science, in the classroom and after-school space for elementary and middle school institutions across Southern California. Mark received his BA from Stanford University, MBA from Yale University, and is a chartered advisor in philanthropy. Our other speaker today is Anderee Berengian, is founder and CEO at CIE and founder and managing partner at ResVen. He is a serial entrepreneur and a board member. CIE is a venture studio that serves as an innovation lab to transform disruptive ideas into new technology ventures. ResVen is an early stage venture capital firm. CIE blends Silicon Valley know-how, startup dynamism, and speed with the business maturity of serial entrepreneurs, seasoned venture capitalists, and Fortune 500 executives. This combination gives CIE a deep understanding of how to apply the latest technology to solve strategic and operational business challenges. CIE's unique hybrid model also enables the company to identify new opportunities that CIE's venture studio incubates, develops, and accelerates into new products and companies. Through his roles at CIE and Resven, Anderee supports and mentors a wide variety of startup entrepreneurs, as well as UCI students. Anderee earned a BS in biochemistry from UCLA, a master's in business from USC, and was a PhD candidate in biophysics at UCLA before recognizing his true passion as an entrepreneur. Anderee gives back by serving as a board member for nonprofits, Discovery Cube of Orange County, and Human Options. He is also on the board of several startups, including Performa Labs and Longvid Brands, among many others. It is great to have both of them here. And the fun thing about introducing Anderee is I got to use the word serial entrepreneur, which really sounded kind of dangerous, but was still a fun thing to do. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark and Anderee, and welcome, Mark and Anderee.
Wonderful, Michael. Okay. Good to see everyone, and Dean Dennin, thank you for so much for the opportunity to address you. I have to say that I looked at the program today. Shout out to Michelle Foley and her small but mighty team in putting this together. The topic arrays of the topics that you've handled, what you've looked at, studied, researched, and also the real world problems you've tackled, and the creativity that has gone into it is extraordinary. So I just want to celebrate excellence today. It's going to be an exciting day. But I do want to talk to you a little bit about the CEOLA Leadership Alliance. The highlight will really be Anderee. Anderee is a member of CEOLA and is an extraordinary, talk about creativity. You will really enjoy his presentation. But if you can go to the next slide, Will, I just want to tell you a little bit about CEOLA because it's a unique organization that you should know something about as you get closer to graduation. It is, if you see who we are, it's led by purposeful CEOs. Started about 4 years ago by our founders, co-founders, Doug Wilson, Dick Gocknauer, really with the idea of bringing CEOs together in Orange County to help the county. Many obviously had corporate foundations, were doing individual work, deeply involved in the community, but they had never come together and built trusting relationships and then questioned, what can we do together for the long-term future of Orange County? So that is what is unique about CEOLA. It's the CEOs themselves that are driving this effort. If you look at the vision, working together to build a thriving OC for all, that was decided very early, and it was really very inclusive. It was really thinking through, how can we improve Orange County? It was headed toward a vision of a retirement community. It was a complete rejection of that, saying, we don't want that. We want all of Orange County to participate in the growth and really intervening earlier in young people's trajectory so that underserved students, could see a future and a vision in Orange County and afford to live in Orange County with higher paying jobs. So that led to our mission, which was really focused on growing OC into a top tier innovation region in America. If you look at our strategy, it really is focused around two things to simplify: brighter futures and better jobs. The brighter futures really took hold the strongest. It's not that the better jobs piece is absolutely important. We worked a little bit on increasing venture capital, Octane, the Cove, obviously, Kerry Ransom and his work at Operate Start, all are part of the ecosystem of startups. But the more we've gotten into this, the more we've focused on Brighter Futures, which is really to develop a talent pipeline. And we feel that that is going to be, in the new economy, the differentiator, to be able to have the talent that will attract companies to Orange County, and most importantly, retain them once they're here. If you look at our guiding principles, those are principles we live by. Measuring facts and business processes. You can imagine CEOs very metric driven, also thinking long term. These are long term initiatives, but acting short term. So we are making consistent progress. Well, if you can turn the slide. What I want to do is give you a little peek into the way we're going about this, especially on the talent side. If you look at the orange, that's the traditional system of heading into employers, but it's really a pipeline. Employers receive what's at the end of that pipeline. And the employers of CEOLA have all come together, even the HR directors, 25, 30 of them meet regularly and rethink, how do we engage with the education system in Orange County? So you can see we have these career exploration experiences, that's mentorships, internships, career awareness. Talent Bridge is really a customized, taking some programs like Alteryx's ADAPT program and customizing that so that you have more data scientists coming out, or more data analytics training that's going on, cybersecurity, preparing for these high growth areas in Orange County's economy. And even apprenticeships, modern youth apprenticeships around those same topics. We've started models around that. The way we hold ourselves accountable and engage the whole community is really through what we call the Talent Leadership Advisory Board. Richard Aram is a member, as are Chapman, Cal State Fullerton, K through 12 system, all the community college districts. Plus, many of our CEOs sit on that leadership advisory board, nonprofits and philanthropists. It really takes the whole community coming together. And this is why, when you look at the systems approach, this is why we're so encouraged that we are going to have a top tier talent pipeline for innovation in Orange County. If you go to the next slide. Will, thanks. And just another layer of focus for us, just so you know, is an AI-infused technology. This is broadly defined. It's data analytics and scientists. It's deep learning. It is Internet of Things, AR, VR. So it's broadly defined. But Jasmine Pashnanda actually is leading that as our senior VP. She came on, she actually grew up in Orange County and spent her career in Los Angeles with, and then went to Wharton, but came back to BCG, worked deeply in the education system for college access in LA, and now has come home to Orange County to help us with this initiative. So you can see the priorities. We're going after a National Science Foundation grant. So these are all just a little thumbnail sketch of what CEOLA is doing. But again, purposeful CEOs really investing back into the community. And if you're looking as you graduate, if you're approaching graduation, you're looking at companies that can provide meaningful opportunities, that are led by CEOs that care about the community and want to give back, and especially for underserved, and really create opportunities. The 50 companies in CEOLA is a pretty good place to start. It cuts across all sectors. So with that, maybe the last slide, I'll just give you, some ways of keeping in contact with us. We have our, obviously the websites. Vision OC is really our branding effort for Orange County. We're doing a refresh next week of version 1. We have a version 2 rebuild coming out in the fall. But that is really going to be a top tier way of branding Orange County so that we really can attract, develop, and retain talent in Orange County. And really, we live in one of the most beautiful counties in the country. We have so much going for us, especially in a post-COVID world. We see more and more talent coming here from other parts of the country. So I think we have a bright future, and just an honor to engage with all of you. And again, a shout out to all the great work that you're doing. Exciting day today, and I know it's a culmination of a lot of work on your part. But do know that the business community is taking notice of all the good work you're doing. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to Anderee. Again, you're in for a treat because he is an extraordinary individual and a serial entrepreneur. So anyway, Anderee, take it away.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for the intro. Thanks, Dean Dennin, for allowing me to say a few words. I've got a couple slides I'm going to share here just to tell you a story. So let me get that going. All right. There we go. So what I entitled this is how to solve a problem. And I'm going to give you a couple bits about me, and then kind of go through a little bit about how we solve problems at C. So that in fact is me. That I was a scientist a long time ago, and used to mix chemicals and look for ways to find solutions to various different kind of disease pathways and so on and so forth. And I learned a lot there. And I learned that as difficult as it is to do biological systems and science, taking that information and applying it to business was, believe it or not, easier. And so I started this startup factory. So I was building companies one at a time, and thought to myself, that's not hard enough. So what if I built a bunch in parallel all at the same time, just to give myself a challenge? And so started this startup factory that we call C. It's a venture studio. And what we do is we build a whole slew of different companies. This is just a small sampling of the things that we are building currently or have built. And the common theme across all of these is there is no common theme. And the reason is that we've found a pretty fantastic way to apply scientific method to solving problems in business. And that's allowed us to become experts at a lot of things versus going really deep into one thing. On this logo chart, you guys may not recognize these names, but we have a gaming company, a native ad company, a plant-based protein company, fintech businesses, caregiver technology, a logistics business, learning platform, among other things. None of those have anything in common other than the fact that we leverage a lot of first principles in order to solve problems. And these are actually some of the charts from some of my papers that I wrote a million years ago, but essentially looking at data, analyzing the data, and coming up with what the next step should be based on the data. So I'll walk you through a little bit of what the process is. So in business, what we do is we do a discovery phase where we look at and try to understand, is there white space there? And white space, what I mean is there opportunity? Is there something we could do or build or whatnot that could ultimately create value? So that's kind of the first analysis, the first step. And then after that, we go through an ideation phase of, okay, how would we do this? And then we would go to a prototype phase, and then we would actually build it. And once we build something, the prototype, we would actually look for signal. And the signal, so getting from here to the zero there that you see at discover to signal, I won't say it's easy, but it's the easier part of it. The hard part I find is that once we get the signal, what is actually happening? What is the customer telling us, or what is the market telling us about the product that we built, or the software that we built, or whatever it may be? That the hard part is analyzing that and really trying to turn that into a next step. What we find that is a lot of times the signal tells us to go back and redo our ideation, and we go back and forth over and over again. And as we do that, what we find is that iterative process allows us to really define what it is that we're going after. In building startups like I do, I can tell you almost for 100% sure that what we started out building and where we ended up is almost never the same. And that's because our hypothesis needs to be refined, and we use data and signals directly from customers, from partners, from external sources, and we use that information to refine what we're doing. it's really hard at this signal stage. It is really hard not to fall in love with your own idea. It is very hard because most people say, no, 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 it's there. I can feel it. I can feel it. But I would tell you, trust the data, trust the information, analyze it, and ultimately run this process until you find a strong enough signal that it's worth pursuing. From there, what we do is we establish a going concern, we establish a company or whatever it may be, and then we go to town. And what you see externally is once we establish, that's when we raise venture capital, and we work with our venture capital partners and ultimately bring money in the business and really go to town. So that's the process that we run. So then the question is, okay, that's very theoretical. I'm going to give you an example. So we set out, gosh, maybe it was 2 years ago now, maybe a year and a half. We set out to look at the elder community, and we thought to ourselves, and this was actually inspired by one of my project managers, and she's like, look, my grandmother passed, and it is an absolute mess to figure out what it is that we need to do to just kind of wrap up her estate. And so and she watched it firsthand because she was helping her parents with that. And so we watched, she kind of took note of things, and we thought maybe there's, she's not the only one going through that. Maybe there's a there, maybe there's a problem that we could solve. And so what we first started out with, which was her difficulty, is what if we create some kind of an information management system for documents like your trust or your will or your bank account statements and so on, and just do like an information management system somewhere where, folks can put that in there. And then if something happens to them, it could release that information. Let's say my parents release that to me, and then ultimately I could do something with it in the event I need to. So we went down that path, and we spent a lot of time, we talked to a lot of external experts, tax planners and financial planners and so on and so forth. And we found out that maybe there's not a good signal. There's a lot of tools and software that's already there. And frankly, if you have a customer that's at end of life, probably not the best way to get lifetime value. So we can't build a robust business that way either. So what we looked at then was, rather than focus on that one instance, which is that kind of end of life instance, what if we create project management tools for healthcare appointments, medicine, et cetera? And this is actually something that's personal to me because I actually help with some care for family members. And so I really need some way to organize those things. So what if we do that? What if we create project management tools, whether it's calendaring, et cetera, and then share it among loved ones who would take care of that particular person? And so document management led us to project management for healthcare appointments, et cetera. And so we went out to market and we tested that. And what came back was people were basically saying, I'll just use my Outlook calendar and my Gmail calendar. I'll use my phone. I don't need this thing. It's okay. And I just text with my cousin and my uncle and we get this done. But as we went through and we tested our prototype with folks to see if they would use it and how they would engage with it, there's one thing that popped out. And the thing that popped out was that we were really focused on the people who needed the care, or the people who were maybe the grandparents that were, kind of end of their life. We're actually focusing on the wrong thing. What we should be focusing on is the caregiver. There were no tools, no coaching, no anything for the people who were actually caring for those that are our loved ones. And so what that set us out to do is essentially focus on the caregiver and build a suite of tools and products for them, which is where this business is. So if you think about it, we went from document management to project management to ultimately creating tools and coaching for the caregiver. In short, what happened was we basically realized there's about 53 million caregivers in the US and growing. And there's a whole slew of coaches and other folks that could help them figure out how to cope with and also take care of family members. And we created basically this technology that ultimately addresses their needs, both technology and coaching combined. So I know we're running out of time here. Leave a couple minutes for questions. So a few things to take note from what we've learned and from what I've extracted from my science days and ultimately am using in business, which is define a clear problem statement. And, we started out in that example I gave you, the problem statement was essentially to take care of document management. Well, that was a problem statement. It turns out it was wrong, but that was a problem statement. Solve smaller problems versus a large one. I find that in science, if you're trying to cure cancer, there is absolutely no way you're going to do that in one step. So solving a lot of small problems, one at a time, that ultimately leads to a larger problem. Effectively, we did that with Care Birds because we solved little tiny problems and tested it and solved and tested it and realized that the bigger opportunity was somewhere else where we weren't looking. Gather data, assess data, and trust the data. A lot of folks say, oh, I trust my gut and it doesn't feel right and so on. And there's something to be said about gut, but the data doesn't lie. If the data doesn't show what you want, repeat it. If it still doesn't show what you want, maybe you're just wrong. And course correct often. As I showed you, we course corrected numerous times and often, and we're not afraid of doing that. That's probably the hardest part because people fall in love with their ideas and they don't want to give them up. But the goal is to ultimately focus and fall in love with the outcome and not necessarily with the idea. If you focus on that end goal, then everything else becomes more of a clear path to success. I hope that was useful and appreciate your time.
Well, Anderee, thank you so much. That actually was incredibly useful. And the challenge of doing this virtually is you don't get to hear the thunderous applause that I'm sure are going on right now.
You're too kind.
No, it was great. I always love listening to you. I know with this sort of structure, we may or may not have any questions. If you do have an immediate question, you can go ahead and put it in the Whova chat and Michelle Foley will be able to get it to us. While I wait a minute or two for questions, I just wanted to first thank Anderee and Mark for your time, for being here today. I also want to give a shout out to our team, our awesome team that was behind putting the event on. I know, Mark, you mentioned them, but we have the Europe team, Sharon, Jerry, Gregory, and Philippe, and then, of course, Michelle, who's been organizing it, and then our media team. So often thanks are at the end of an event, but with this virtual format, I'm doing the thanks at the beginning. And then I realized a very odd thing. I actually never introduced myself. So I am Michael Dennin. I'm the Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning and the Dean of Division of Undergraduate Education here at UCI. I'm also a professor in physics and astronomy. And to all of our visitors who are coming to the event to see the students, welcome to UCI virtually. As you may or may not know, this is an annual event. And we really welcome the community every year. So enjoy the virtual one, but we hope to see people physically on campus next year at the event. With that, I know the students are really excited about getting started right at 9:35 with their presentations. So I think, Anderee and Mark will thank you again, and we'll get on with the day. It's going to be exciting and fun. So hope to see everybody in other virtual rooms throughout the day.
Hey, Michael.
Yes, Mark.
Before you leave,
Yeah.
Anderee and I got our heads together and we'd like to combine on a little contribution to the program of $5,000.
Oh,
and just because we want to celebrate excellence, and this is clearly excellence in education. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark and Anderee. That is an even better and more exciting way to start the day. I know the student talks will be even more exciting, but that is great. Thank you all so much. And we'll see everybody around in Whova and on Zoom. Have a great symposium.
Great one.
Okay.
Take care.